105 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
For sure, this will be a summer unlike any other because of all the coronavirus precautions, but it's already looking a little better than a shutdown spring. The main thing now is to enjoy the season as much as possible with maximum safety. Last summer, dancehall star Cranium was shooting videos for his hit songs and touring worldwide. Summer 2020, he's alone in the studio, social distancing and rediscovering the art of the phone call.
Yeah, 100%, because now I'm calling people because I'm bored. You know, because you're so bored, you want to know what's going on. See, it's like I spend more time on my phone more than ever. Because before you never have to call anybody, just drive, go meet them.
The urge to get out is even stronger now after living under stay-at-home orders. With more people on the move, it's even more important to adhere to safety routines on the road, says Dr. Manny Fambu.
You want to make sure you put on your face mask, especially when you walk in to go to restrooms and stuff like that. Realize that there are a lot of people that are using the same stop.
A big concern for local and state officials is making sure social distancing is being followed, even as streets, parks, and beaches attract more people.
Law enforcement, like the rest of society, is building the plane as we learn how to fly it. So as a result of that, we're making as many strides as possible, but we're also making mistakes.
Current rules restricting recreation programs, sports, and camps are tough on kids. Actress and reality TV star Tara Wallace left New York and brought her 3 sons, ages 4, 8, and 12, all wearing masks, to her brother's Texas home. We're joined right now by Tara Wallace. She is an actress and a reality TV star and a mom. Tara, what has it been like for you during this whole quarantine situation?
Thank you for having me, Lisa. In the first 2.5 months, I was extremely hopeful. I was just doing what I had to do. I got all of the assignments in school, trying to stay positive so the kids didn't really notice a difference, so they're not stressed out as much as we are as adults. But then it began to wear on me. I'm just not knowing in the apartment, just not knowing what the next thing is.
And then in terms of the summer, as the summer is beginning and it's still not going to be back to normal, there's a lot of activities. They can't really have play dates. You can't really just go run out in a park and play with their friends or just on the, in the playground or whatever. What kind of things are you looking to do with them during the summer?
You know what? I was looking to, I was like, I'm going to watch some YouTube videos, throw football. How to play baseball and just kind of, find an area, open space. We came to Texas because my brother is here just to get out of the city for a little bit and just try to take advantage of, he has a huge backyard and just little simple things like that. Kind of how I was raised in Mississippi, like keeping it very simple. But because here there's like fishing and things, sports like that. But that's why I came. I left for just a little bit, just to give the kids a break, just so that we don't know sometimes what type of effect it can have on our children. So I wanted to just get them out a little bit.
And a lot easier than having them in an apartment in the city.
Exactly. And we had done that for 2.5 months, but I believe that it was just kind of weighing all of us just a little bit. I mean, there's only so much you can do, and then I would leave my apartment to go to the grocery store, and I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. I don't feel safe. I don't know what's happening, and then you get these things from the store, and then you're bringing them back into your home, and although you're wiping them down, and, it's just too much that's happening for you just to be comfortable.
And then give us the ages of your kids.
My boys, James, 12, Cass is 8, and Gunnar is 4.
All right. What about in terms of when you do go, hi there, when you do go out there, when you do take them out, are there certain things now, because, they are going to want to go out and you are in Texas, there's going to be different places they want to go. Do you have like a little safety routine? Because, here in New York, people are wearing masks and, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, so
put the mask on the kids.
Exactly. So they have their own mask that we wear, and it's to the point where they know they don't really leave the house unless they know they need their mask. Gunnar is always like, Corona's going to get me. So it's just weird how my 4-year-old is conscious of that. So they have masks. Obviously the hand sanitizer, washing our hands, being mindful of what we're touching. My 4-year-old sucks his thumb, so it's stressful for me because, one day I looked down and the mask was gone and the thumb was in, and I'm like, my heart dropped. And I'm like, okay, we have to leave the mask on. The older boys, they know to put the mask on. They're extra precautious. They know to wash their hands. We have hand sanitizer, and but it's just still like we're taking all the precautions and just hoping that it's in our favor, that nothing happens.
Do you feel like you can go out with them? Like, can you go to a restaurant there? What's it like there?
You can go to a restaurant here because everything's outdoors, and then there's a lot of everybody's kind of social distance in a line to take the food away. So we've kind of done that. Like we've walked to restaurants, gotten food, and come back home. I think here people in general are more relaxed than New York. So even though I'm on 10 and people are kind of coming up to me or bumping me, and I'm just like, back up.
Right. You're kind of like, excuse me?
Yes. Not just that. I feel like, outside of New York, people aren't really understanding what's happening there, or just how serious it is. And when people say stay inside, people are, for the most part, inside.
And then in terms of Gunnar, because he's the youngest one, right? The 4-year-old, your 4-year-old, the cute one we're seeing right behind him, behind you.
He's 4.
He's 4. He's 4. That just brushes. Does he like want to do things that you have to tell him he can't do?
He does want to do things that we can't do. In the beginning, especially when the parks were closed, he didn't understand not being able to go to the park. And then just he didn't understand like not being able to go to the grocery store when I would go to the grocery store, just like little things we would do together. And whether it's even at the drugstore and you pick up a little toy for him to play with, he didn't understand why he couldn't go. And then, after telling him so long why, and he just finally got it. Till when we came here and I said, okay, we're leaving, he's like, I don't want to leave.
Joining us now is Cranium. He's a famous dance hall artist. His latest single is called Gale Policy, and we're going to find out what that's all about. But we're going to talk with him about safe socializing. Cranium, great to have you on Street Soldiers. Finally, we tried to get you before, but your travel schedule was crazy. And now that you're in one place, we're happy to have a chance to talk with you.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a while. I'm happy to be here.
Totally. Let me ask you this, because rumor has it that you are kind of turning into this relationship expert and socializing expert.
Yeah.
So how bad has it gotten for the summer because of this coronavirus? What's really changing for people?
I feel like there's a lot of things changing as far as like going out, having fun, going to parties. And I haven't seen some of my friends in a long time because you have to take precaution, not only for yourself, but for people that is around you. And you have to think about yourself, your family and neighbors. So it's been a very, very, very rough time, and I can't sneak like I used to. So that's the sad part.
And then in terms of the whole culture, because the dance hall culture is all about people being together, people partying, people having a good time. There's always large crowds. You never see any picture anywhere of a dance hall artist with an empty venue or a half-filled yard or anything like that. It's always, it's always packed. What does that do into the way people are just enjoying the music this summer?
Listen, our culture is very, we love party. Like dancehall is the heart of the people. That's what it is. It's the street, it's the run, it's the vibe. So for me, to be honest with you, like I miss the whole going out. And even here in New York, we have parties Monday to Sundays, every night. So for now, we have to step back from that. So it's very hard for music. I still keep it going. I still keep it pushing. I just feel like now it's all about the content that we drop. There has to be something that very eye-catching first for them to even listen to it. And like, I drop Gal Policy because everybody want to know what Gal Policy is about. So I feel as far as music is concerned, it's a hard time for us, man. Dancer people love being in party, we love being out, we love street, so it's affecting us.
What about in terms of safety? Like when you go out, have you noticed, do you wear a mask? Do you do all these different types of safety things? Do you see other people doing it?
Yeah, 100%. It's weird. It's a weird transition. Last week it was regular. This week it's just like you have to put on masks and gloves. And it's not only you. You have to understand that sometimes when I go out, I take myself out of just being me and be like, how is that person feeling with me in the environment, not wearing my proper glasses or have my my gloves is on. So I feel like for now it's like it's not the same. It doesn't feel the same because, as I said, it's not about you anymore. It's about people around you. So if you're self-conscious and have sense and want to make sure that everybody is safe, you have to take the same precaution that they're taking. So that's pretty much what I do.
There's much more still to come, including summer health advice and a debate over social distancing enforcement. We'll be right back. Joining us now is Dr. Manny Fambu. He's a medical doctor with an MBA, best-selling author of the book, The Future of Healthcare, and he's also a policy advisor on the coronavirus pandemic. Dr. Manny, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
Dr. Manny, we have been told that heat kills coronavirus. So does that mean because it's summertime that we don't have to worry about it anymore?
Great question. I've heard that quite a bit. We do know that the virus is very fragile, and we know that heat does kill the bacteria. But it's very important to keep in mind that it's very difficult to replicate real-world situations in a lab. So, for example, humidity levels are completely different, right, in the real world than what you have in the lab. But so, with that being said, there's no conclusive evidence that heat will kill the virus or prevent us. So I'll beg for us to still be cautious. We do know that even parts of the world right now that have hot temperatures still have infection rates, right? Florida, even in the US, Florida, California, we know we have cases there. So I'll be very cautious about that.
So it's not over by any means.
It's not over, it's getting better, but it's not over.
All right, and Dr. Manny, during the summer, as you know, many people, especially this year, because they're nervous about flying planes and that type of thing, they're taking road trips. What should people be wary about or be careful about when they're taking these road trips and stopping at these roadside rest areas?
Correct. I actually have a friend right now driving from Washington, D.C. to Minnesota, right, to see her mom for her birthday and taking the stops along the way. And what you have to do, the best thing, same thing you do when you go to a grocery store, you want to make sure you put on your face mask, especially when you walk in to go to restrooms and stuff like that. Realize that there are a lot of people that are using the same stop. So everyone is grabbing the handles of the door. So make sure, you could use a paper towel or something to hold the door when you open it up. Make sure you wash your hands after touching the door, or put on gloves when you open the door, when you come in contact with these places. And because you're in public, please don't forget to put on your face mask. That applies as well. So the same things you do in the grocery store, the same things you do on a day-to-day basis should be the same practices that you want to carry on.
And what about swimming pools? The city swimming pools are closed, but there's a lot of other swimming pools. Does the chlorine in the water kill the coronavirus? So that makes that a good place to go?
Correct. So we do know that chlorine and other disinfectants that have been tested show that they're effective against the virus. But the issue here, so why the pools are safe, remember, the key issue here is not the pool itself, but what happens outside the pool, right? So hanging out around the pool, laying down, getting a tan, socializing with friends, that's where the issue is, right? Because you can still spread the virus that way. So it is advisable that you should limit the number of people that are actually in the pool. So you don't want a crowded pool, that you can maintain those 6 feet distance. And when you're outside, please make sure you have a face mask on. And of course, continue to wash your hands.
And what about the ocean? Can the coronavirus survive, or is it in the ocean?
That's a great question. I saw a recent study from the Surfrider Foundation that showed that the virus can remain alive and therefore infectious in fresh water, right? So technically, or in theory, you could get infected by swimming in fresh water. But if you think about it from a larger scale piece, even fresh water doesn't stay in one particular spot. The water moves. And so with the volume of water that you have, it's most likely that the virus will be diluted. It will not be your highest risk factor in that particular case. But if you look at it in the case of ocean water, there's no study that's been done specifically looking at salt water and if the virus survives in salt water. But I think the best thing to do in this particular case will be to stay safe and make sure you maintain a safe distance. In addition, even if you are at the beach, you realize that the tides, for example, move the water back and forth. So it's unlikely that a virus will stay in one particular location and most likely be diluted or moved away. But in the meantime, please make sure you stay safe. But let's be more concerned about what happens outside of the ocean than what happens in the ocean itself.
You say you're more concerned about what happens outside of the ocean, meaning on the beach, because we've seen images and video of people on the beaches. They're not social distancing. They're not wearing masks. Some people say, well, we don't need them because we're out in the fresh air. It's open. It's not an enclosed place. What do you say to that?
It's a behavioral thing, right? The beach is usually a place where we go to relax, have fun, get some food and play games on the beach and bump into each other. That's what the beach is about, right? That's our mentality about the beach. But unfortunately, this time around, especially, at least in the near future, those will not be the same practices that we would like to carry on the beach. So if you happen to go to the beach and the beach is open in your local area, please make sure you still maintain the safe distance from one another. Make sure you have a face mask on, and make sure you keep your hands clean.
This is a public health crisis. Therefore, we need to lend deference to the scientists that have that knowledge that specifically states that the social distancing needs to be something that's in accord.
We're joined right now by Dr. Darren Porcher. He's a former NYPD lieutenant, a criminal justice professor, and a law enforcement analyst. Dr. Darren Porcher, great to have you with us on Street Soldiers again.
As always, it's a pleasure to contribute, and thanks for having me.
Dr. Darren, in terms of what's happening on the streets this summer, what do you see given the social distancing issues, given some of the tensions with police and the community? What do you think is really going on?
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic is something that we've never seen before. So in essence, law enforcement, like the rest of society, is building the plane as we learn how to fly it. So as a result of that, we're making as many strides as possible, but we're also making mistakes, so to speak. And one of the things that I tout is when I look at Mayor de Blasio's criminal justice initiative in connection with social distancing, I think that there are tremendous voids in the process. The policy has recently been introduced as more or less officers kind of staying back or being regressive in connection with the social distancing policies. But I'm a firm proponent is if you do nothing, the outcome is going to be catastrophic, because the public, when I say the public, meaning the 8.5 million civilians that live in the city of New York, are going to suffer as a result. This is a public health crisis. Therefore, we need to lend deference to the scientists that have that knowledge that specifically states that the social distancing needs to be something that's in accord. If the police department is not enforcing the social distancing, then we have the ability for this to revolutionize and metamorphosize into something that we revert back in April, where we had upwards of 700 deaths a day in the state of New York. So
okay,
that
let me just ask you though, in terms of some of the social distancing enforcement, there were statistics that came out that showed a racial disparity. There were some very troubling videos, especially that one on the Lower East Side and the ones that we saw in Brooklyn. We saw different communities having social distancing enforced in very, very different ways. And is there a policy now, or is it just being left up to these individual precincts or individual boroughs? Because like you said, the social distancing, the medicine behind it, they say it needs to happen in order to keep the pandemic small, but there seems to just be a lot of confusion around what's permitted and what's not permitted.
People should be connected with quintessential policing, meaning the system of policing needs to be consistent across the board. One of the things that we've seen that's been introduced is there's been a disproportionately high level of enforcement in the communities of color as opposed to the other communities in connection with the social distancing. It's clear that there's an abstract policy that's in play, and not everyone is on board with the same policy in connection with the NYPD. I think the cops are trying to do the right thing, but in essence, the policy is being dictated from City Hall and not one police plaza. There needs to be a unified strategy, and that unified strategy should have the safety at hand for all New Yorkers. So when we take in consideration the videos that we've seen, which have been a minority, not the majority, whereas we've appeared to see something in a sense of over-policing in the communities of color. I think that supervision needs to prevail in those particular instances to ensure that there's uniformity and the policing is done on a level that all members of the city of New York are receiving an adequate level of policing and not over-policing. But it goes back to what you mentioned before. Is the policy uniform across the board? And that remains to be questionable as we see.
Thanks for joining us as we all go through this unprecedented summer together. I'm Lisa Evers. Remember, use your mind as your best weapon. Let's push for peace, love, and health.